Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Assalatu wassalamu ala Rasulihil Kareem, amma ba'd, fa'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today, inshallah, we are going you are going to learn commanding and forbidding fi'l. And this lesson is 26th lesson in our series. Let's learn Arabic grammar. So, what are commanding and forbidding fi'l? First, recall that there are three types of fi'l in Arabic. Fi'l madi, which is past tense. Fi'l mudare, which is in Arabic. There are three types of fi'l, right? Fi'l madi, fi'l mudare, and fi'l amr wa nahi. Fi'l madi is the past tense. Fi'l mudare in Arabic covers both present tense and future tense. And fi'l amr wa nahi are commanding and forbidding fi'l. So, Alhamdulillah, we in the last few lessons from lesson 18, you learn about past tense and present tense, different forms of present tense, and different modes of present tense. So now we are moving on to the third type of fi'l, which is commanding and forbidding type, or fi'l amr wa nahi. And before we move on, just keep in mind that fi'l madi is the past tense. So a fi'l, an action that was done in the past, that is already done. Fi'l mudare is when action is being done or will be done in future. And so past tense and past tense and present tense and future tense are with the time notation. There's a time notion in fi'l madi and fi'l mudare. In fi'l amr and fi'l nahi, it's a commanding or forbidding. And there are some important observation about commanding and forbidding fi'l, some important points. So commanding is as apparent from its name, commanding fi'l conveys commands, and forbidding fi'l forbids someone from doing something. Grammatically, both of these, like commanding and forbidding fi'l, both forms are made from from present tense fi'l. And there are some important points or aspects about these commanding and forbidding fi'ls we need to keep in mind. First thing is, someone cannot command or forbid in the past tense. Like, we cannot ask someone to do something in the past, that in the time that already passed. So commanding and forbidding fi'l cannot be in the past tense. Another observation is no one can command himself or herself. So the present tense, in present tense, the first person, for first person pronoun like I and we. So the fi'l that are with pronouns I or we, ana and nahnu, will not be there in commanding or forbidding, right? And the same way, someone cannot forbid or command someone who is not there, like third person, he, she, they. So commanding and forbidding fi'l would not be coming from third person fi'l, like huwa, huma, hum, hiya, huma, hunna. So commanding and forbidding would not be coming from first person or the third person. First person ana and nahnu, and third person huwa, huma, hum, hiya, huma, hunna. So the only thing that we are left with here are second person, like you singular form, dual, and plural form. Anta, antuma, antum, or in female, we have anti, antuma, antunna. So these are the 6 forms of present tense that that will be used for commanding and forbidding. And another observation is that it is easier to forbid than to command. And you will see when inshallah we are going to see how the commanding and forbidding fail are evolve. Commanding and forbidding fail are evolved from present tense. Then you will see that it is much easier to forbid than to command. And the 5th important point is a grammatical command isn't always really a command. Sometimes it may be a prayer, like Ihdina Siratal Mustaqim. Ihdina is Fele Amr, but it's a prayer, it's a dua. So sometimes grammatical command isn't always really a command. It can be a suggestion, motivation, advice, or request. So okay, let's see how to recognize the commanding and forbidding fail in Quranic ayat or in other Arabic text. So first thing is that we just discussed that both commanding and forbidding fail are in the present tense. Okay, they are the grammatically evolved form of present tense. And one important point here is both are from lightest form. Present tense, lightest, majzoom form. Fe'l mudari, majzoom, the lightest present form. So both are from present tense, lightest. And we also discussed here, just discuss that grammatically both originate from second person, like anta, antuma, antum, or anti, antuma, antunna. So second person present tense, lightest. Commanding in commanding fail, usually you will observe helper alif in the beginning, though sometimes it's absent, and it depends. Most of the time in Solasi Mujarrad family, you have a helper alif, but in Mazid Fihi, sometimes you see the helper alif, sometimes you don't see, and it also depends upon the root letters of different fail also. So most of the time you will see a helper alif before a commanding fail. Sometimes you won't see. The 4th point in recognition of commanding and forbidding fail is that forbidding fail has a forbidding la, which is called la nahiya before present tense, lightest form. So forbidding will always be there with la nahiya. Okay. And commanding will either have a helper alif or not. Sometimes you may not see helper alif. Okay, this is a chart we already went through when we were doing different modes of Fe'l Mudari, present tense, different modes of present tense, regular, light, and lightest. So this one is the lightest form. And you can see that in 5 in your pocket, like Af'alul Arba, Huwa, Hiya, Anta, Ana, Nahnu, you have sukoon at the end. So, and so these are on majzoom, and in present tense, when which in all present tense which end in noon, noon, which end, all present tense which end in noon, the lightest form doesn't have a noon at the end. Like huma yaf'ala, hum yaf'alu. So regular form is yaf'aluna, but the majzoom or the lightest form is yaf'alu, yaf'ala. But our focus over here is on when we are learning commanding and forbidding fail, our focus mainly is on the second person, all 6 second person fail, like anta, antuma, antu, antum, anti, anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna. So these are the 6 forms of fail mudare, lightest fail mudare majzoom, from where commanding and forbidding fail originate. So let's go down. So these are the 6 form of present tense lightest that are going to change into either commanding or forbidding. So let's see how does this second form present tense lightest change to commanding fail. How? First step is obviously it starts with any of the second person lightest form. So it can you can start, you can take example of taf'al. Okay, let's take example of taf'al. Taf'al, just take this example. Let me highlight it. So this one, okay, taf'al. Then first step in making changing it to commanding fail, the first step is to remove the ta. So you are going to remove ta, the beginning ta. This is taf'ala, taf'al, sorry, the lightest form, taf'al. Now look at the word that is left over here. It has a sukoon on fa, sukoon on fa, and fatha on ain, and again sukoon on la. Can you read it? Now you the third step is to see whether we can read it or not. The first sorry, fa has sukoon, not fatha. Fa has sukoon. This fa has sukoon after removing the ta. Taf'al, taf'al, after removing the ta, fa has sukoon. So you have sukoon at the beginning, so you cannot read it. So because you cannot read it, you are going to add a helper alif in the beginning to read it properly. But which haraka would come on alif? It depends upon the middle, the haraka of the middle kalma. So which haraka, whether we are going to pronounce this helper alif with dhamma or kasra. So it depends upon the haraka of this middle letter. This is an ain kalma. So if ain kalma has dhamma, then the helper alif gets dhamma. But if ain kalma has other than dhamma, then this alif will always get kasra. Okay. So if dhamma is there over here, then the helper alif gets dhamma. Otherwise, kasra. So far, so good. So let's revise the steps. First is take the lightest form, second person lightest form, either taf'al or taf'ala or taf'alu. So second person lightest, then remove ta, and then see if it can be read as is. But if it cannot be read, then we need a helper alif. We put a helper alif, and the haraka, haraka on helper alif depends upon the haraka on the middle kalma. So if middle kalma has dhamma, then helper alif gets dhamma. If middle letter has fatha or kasra, then the middle kalma gets kasra. Okay, so here now this is the process of making commanding fail from second person present tense lightest. Now let's see how we can how does second person lightest form, present tense lightest form, change to forbidding. This is much easier. Just 2 steps. Take present tense second person lightest, second person present tense lightest, and then add a la nahiya before it. La before it. So for example, let's take 3 examples. Kharaja. Kharaja, as we know, is from Sulasi Mujarrad. Kharaja yakhruju. So it's Bab Nasara. Yakhruju, right? So yakhruju is hua form. We are going to take second person lightest form. So takhruj. Takhruj is the second person lightest anta form, and we just add la before it. Okay. The second example over here we have is zahaba, and zahaba yazhabu. So it means it is also Sulasi Mujarrad and subfamily fataha. Zahaba yazhabu. Yazhabu is hua form, tazhabu is anta form, and to make it lightest, we need sukoon at the end. So tazhab, and we just add la before it to make it forbidding. Then we have the third example, samia. Samia yasmau. Samia yasmau is samia yasmau. So again, the family is subfamily is samia, bab samia, and tasma is second person lightest, and then we just add la before it to make it, to change it into forbidding fail. So this is how commanding fail evolved from the second person lightest form, and the forbidding fail evolved from second person present tense lightest. Okay. Now here is the process of let's take the same 3 example and see the process of changing from second person present tense lightest to the commanding fail. Okay, so kharaja yakhruju. So second person lightest form would be takhruj. What we are going to do, when we make a commanding fail, first we remove the ta. First we remove ta, then it becomes khuruj. But we cannot read it. We need to see if the word is readable as is. If it is readable as is, then we don't need a helper alif. And it happens in some of the commanding fail from mazid fihi, and also from some other root letters, some root letters with weak letters in the beginning. So it may happen with that too. So, but inshallah, we are going to cover these topics like mazid fihi and fail mu'attal, the fail with weak letters. Inshallah, we are going to do in future lessons. So just at the moment, we just took the one fail, second person present tense lightest, takhruj. We remove the tha as the second step, and then we are looking at the word that can we read it as is. Obviously not, because the first letter has sukoon. So we need a helper alif. We need a helper alif, and the harka on the helper alif would be Dhamma if the middle kalma has Dhamma. And this one is Nasara family. Bab Nasara. Kharaja yakhruju. So Bab Nasara family has Dhamma on the middle kalma, Ain kalma. So this one, the helper alif would take Dhamma. Ukhruj. Ukhruj is the commanding from Takhruj. Now we have Zahaba, Yazhabu. So the second person, lightest form, Tazhab. Tazhab, remove the ta, and then it becomes Zah. We cannot read it because Zal has a sukun. The first letter has sukun. So we need a helper alif, and then helper alif will get kasra because the middle letter has fatha. So middle letter if middle letter has fatha or kasra, in both cases, the helper alif will get kasra. So idhab is the commanding fail. Idhab, commanding fail. Then we have the third form, Samia, from Bab Samia Yasmau. So the second person present lightest is Tasma. And then obviously we cannot read it because first letter has sukun. So we need helper alif, and helper alif will get kasra because the middle letter has no dhamma other than dhamma. So that's why it's it would take kasra. So that's how we make commanding fail from second person present tense lightest. I hope you understand these concepts. Let's take okay. This is a chart showing how you change different these 6 second person present tense lightest to convert to the commanding fail. So in anta you have taf'al. Regular form is taf'alu, but you are going to make it lightest, taf'al. Then you remove the tha. Remove the ta and see if you can pronounce it. You cannot, so you need a helper alif and the middle letter. After removing the ta, middle letter has fatha. So alif will get, the helper alif will get kasra. If'al. Antuma, the lightest form is taf'ala. Taf'ala. So if it would become if'ala. Antum form taf'alu, it would become if'alu. Anti form lightest would be taf'ali, so it would become if'ali. Antuma would become if'ala again, and antunna, because it's a mabni, so it remains taf'alna in the majzoom form, lightest form, so it would be if'alna. Okay, and we can also see how it would look in forbidding. La taf'al, you just take the lightest form of these 6 second person present tense, lightest form. So taf'al becomes la taf'al, taf'ala would become la taf'ala, taf'alu would become la taf'alu, and anti form taf'ali would become la taf'ali, antuma taf'ala would become la taf'ala, and antunna la taf'alna. So you in forbidding is much easier than commanding. You just add la before the second person present tense lightest form. Okay. Let me see what is below. I think we have an exercise below. Yes. So inshallah, we are going to do this exercise in our interactive form. Just for examples, so these are some commanding and forbidding fail from Surah Fatiha and first 100 ayat of Surah Baqarah. So over here in Surah Fatiha, we have Ihdina Siratal Mustaqim. So Ihdi is commanding, and this na is attached pronoun, Damir Muttasil, and it's coming as Mafulun bihi. Ihdina, guide us, guide us. So this is, though it's in commanding fail, but it is a request. It's a dua. And over here, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ لَا تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. So here we have لَا تُفْسِدُوا, antum form. Because originally it's tufsiduna, but when we make forbidding, we take the lightest form tufsidu, and then we add la. So this one is the forbidding. The rest of the example, inshallah, we are going to do in our interactive session. So I conclude this session here.